Oh, what albums are you looking through now then?
I'm just get these out. It's absolutely fatal. It's at the beginning of the war, and you know, there's my sister and my dad and my mum, and all the memories come flooding back. I was 19 when the war started, and looking at these pictures of memories flood back about it. There was talk of war for a long time, but bear in mind there wasn't television, or the only real news you got was a bit on the radio, and of course we used to go to cinemas a lot. And at 19, it didn't make much difference, you know, I didn't take it seriously. And then it said that Chamberlain, who was the Prime Minister then, had sent Hitler an ultimatum. And then it came on the radio all the morning that at 11 o'clock he was going to make an important announcement. We all gathered round the radio, and this voice came on and said Hitler hadn't replied. And then the grim words came, "This country is now at war." And we just looked stunned. I can't remember being that concerned, but it did run through my mind, what now? I was 19 then. I was annoyed. I had youth, I was going dancing. You know, it mucked up my life a bit. We had to have blackouts, but I mean, really, it seemed a farce because nothing was happening. That we were all issued with Anderson shelters. They had to be dug deep into the ground, and bunk beds were put in and floorboards, but I mean, we didn't use it then, but it was ready. Anyway, on the 15th of August, on my 21st birthday, by then I'd got a boyfriend, Ken, and he was in the Air Force, and he sent me a little necklace with the RAF badge on it, and then it was hung with little pearls, and I took it into work to show the girls at work, and one girl said, "Oh, pearls for tears," and I thought, I'm not a bit superstitious, it didn't bother me, but that night there was lots and lots of tears. On my 21st birthday, they bombed Croydon Airport. I think they did hit the airport, but we were so near it. There was our road was Cold Harbour Road, and it ran into Cold Harbour Way, and there was direct bombs up there. People that you'd played with and known all your life. I mean, it was a council estate that you sort of knew people were killed. We had no tiles on our roof, so we couldn't sleep upstairs. You could see the sky, but we did have downstairs, and I can't remember, but I know that people from Cold Harbour Way came and shared our home that night. We found mattresses, and we all slept on the floor and wondered what was going to happen next, I suppose. I don't know. I worked in a perfume factory then called Bourgeois, and that was people that I'd worked with or killed there. Luckily, we finished 5:30, and the bombing was about 7 o'clock at night. But we had been working overtime, so we could have, Betty and I could have easily been there. There was another factory next door where Ken worked, and it was called the NFF. I don't know what it was, and probably Ken need not have gone in the forces. He could have worked there, but that was just a pile of rubbish. Everybody in it was killed, yet he went in the RAF with Bomber Command and went through the war.
So was your house not fit to live in then?
No, we had no roof. We couldn't live in the house. We've moved to South Norwood. Very big house in South Norwood it was. We hated it really. And then the war really started. Every night at the same time, more or less, used to get this drone, and then they came nearer and nearer, and they bombed all around. It was a dreadful time. In the meantime, I got a job in the mission factory. It wasn't really a very big factory, only I had to do night work. And one thing, I had a sister, Betty, and she was working on munitions in London. And one morning, she was going up to the station, she had to go by train, and it was quite early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, and a bomber came and just bombed round our area. And Betty came running home, and when she found that our house was only got tiles off and we were all right, she didn't stop to speak to us. She just fell on the settee and sobbed because all her family was safe.
What about Christmases? What were they like?
I remember, I don't quite know what Christmas it was, but the war had been on and it was well and truly at its height, bombing all round, terrifically unhappy time. And it was Christmas, and then there was a post on Christmas Day, and my granny, that we loved very much, and we used to have lovely holidays there as children, and she died that year, and her will came on Christmas Day of all days. And Christmas, sat down to Christmas dinner, and even now I can think of it, it brings tears to my eyes, because my mother was eating a Christmas dinner and she was literally choking over it because she was upset, because the Navy was singing carols and Bertie wasn't at a Christmas dinner, my brother, and then this will coming, and we were all quite sad. And my dad said to my mum, bloody cheer up, and he pushed his Christmas dinner to the middle of the table. My mum did the same, and we all did the same, Betty and Betty and Joni and me. And we just sat there and looked at each other and had a little cry. Very sad.
So you got married during the war, didn't you? What was that like?
Yes, people, things. I'm just looking at pictures now. People, you had coupons for food, but very short rations it was. So people saved up their rations. I had Irene, that's Ken's sister, Betty, Joni, May, my friend, who's my friend for years, two in green and two in gold. You couldn't get flowers very much because they weren't allowed to be travelling, but I had daffodils, big daffodils, and we couldn't have flowers for the bridesmaid because, you just couldn't buy them. So they had prayer books, little white prayer books. The service went on, photographs were taken, and then in the next day I went to Dover, and Dover was ever so bad because they used to shoot across from France, and the Dover seafront, there was nothing there. I mean, what a place to go for a honeymoon.
I was born in 1944. The war wasn't over then, was it?
Yes, you were, Keith. And I think I was married about 18 months. And it was a terrible time. They were all sleeping down the shelter. Anyway, you were born, and in a lovely place. It was an old house, all very rich, and it stood in its own grounds with a lot of rooms, and it was only turned over to a maternity home because just to house London people like me, and they were very, very everybody very, very kind to me, but I was terribly, terribly worried about my parents. I was terribly worried that they'd all be killed because there was so much devastation then. So Ken came to Leicester, like to see Keith when he was 3 weeks old. And this is another thing that I'm very, very sorry, and I think I was very, very selfish to do. I said I want to go home to my mum and be there. I should not have taken that little baby home to all that bombing, but I did. Then the war ended, and I remember going to bed and people in the street were shouting, "It's all over, it's all over." And people got up, lit bonfires in the road, brought pianos out in the street, and they were dancing. And Keith, you were only about, I think you were about 18 months old. I'm going to have to look it up to see, but you know, and you were part of that street party, and there was dancing again, and it was wonderful. And everybody sort of knew one another. You all cared. You all cared about one another. And then the forces started coming home, and Mum made a big banner, "Welcome home, Bertie and Ken." And everybody was doing the same. It was just wonderful.